Hi, welcome back. If you don't know me, I'm Anna. Usually on this channel we make topics about real-life applications to psychology, and I guess that's kind of what today is as well, but it's a little bit of a more personal take than usual. I'm going to be telling you 25 lessons that I learned up to age 25. Yes, I did turn 25 this year. I used to be really freaked out about the idea of aging. And interestingly, the older I get, the less freaked out with the idea I am. Actually, I am a little bit excited about moving into different stages of my life, garnering respect, having an age where people don't constantly wonder if I know what I'm doing. I also tend to look younger than I am, maybe not today because I'm wearing a lot of makeup, but like even last summer, I was asked if I was 18. I got asked if I was an unaccompanied minor. So people are constantly calling into question my age, and that's something that I'm kind of coming to terms with now, that I don't care. But yeah, let's just get into the 25 lessons that I learned up until age 25. The first one is don't aim low out of fear that you can't reach your goals. Shoot for the stars and land on the moon, but if you only shoot for the moon, you might end up just floating in outer space. In undergrad, I went to a university that is a very good university, top 25, but my advisor was not the greatest. He met me maybe 2 or 3 times after no showing on a bunch of our meetings because he just forgot to show up. And when I told him that I was applying to doctorate programs, he really discouraged me from applying anywhere in cities because he said that I wouldn't have chances because it's too competitive. And it was interesting. I was wondering, what is that based on? Because he didn't really know anything about me. We hadn't really spoken much one-on-one. And as it turned out, I did get into a PsyD program in Chicago and a PhD in Seattle. And I ultimately decided to go for the PsyD, which he strongly discouraged me from doing as well because it was a very research-heavy university. And so that was an example of somebody that initially told me, don't aim high. Aim low because of reasons unbeknownst to me, you're just not gonna make it. You're not gonna get very far. And unfortunately, sexism and ageism, and for other people, racism as well, definitely play a part in people discouraging them from aiming high. But that's something that I learned very early on, is that I'm not going to listen to people who tell me not to aim high because I'm capable of more than they realize I am. And the same goes for all the practicum experiences that I've had in grad school. We're strongly encouraged to apply to a wide range of experiences, ranging from things that we are really excited for to things that are more backups, and then things that are kind of middle tier. And I noticed that doing that never actually boosted my ability to get where I wanted. And it's interesting because when I do apply for backups, I usually get rejected from those. I usually get accepted to the ones that I'm really excited about. And I think the reason for that is that they can kind of tell that you don't have the same enthusiasm or that it's not the best fit for you. If you only reach for things that are genuinely places where you would be happy and you genuinely let yourself dream big, I think that really opens up your options a lot more than just throwing your hands in the air and saying, oh, well, I'm not that great, so we'll see, I'll throw in a few backups. My advice is no, don't use any backups, just reach for the stars. Second lesson I learned is that I need to pay attention to red flags in people and slowly distance myself after spotting them. I've said this before on this channel, but even if they seem small, minor things that you think, oh, there's no way that this could impact me directly, it's only a matter of time until it does. Like, I had a friend one time who was a very terrible driver, and it's like, okay, I'm not gonna stop being friends with someone because they're a bad driver. But then I ended up in a car with her, and she wanted to turn left on red, and that was a real dangerous position that she put me in. And as it turned out, part of the reason she wasn't able to think very well about driving also reflected in other ways, like having some short-sightedness with other things and just some general cognitive rigidity that did result in issues in our friendship unrelated to driving. Similarly, in the past, I've attracted a lot of flaky and unreliable people, and I've learned that that doesn't cut it for me. It might seem like something really small, but I find myself feeling really anxious when people are disrespectful of my time, and I feel like I'm getting ready and just waiting for hours. That's another area where, it seems like a small red flag, but usually it's reflective of something bigger, which is that this person doesn't respect your time. Or even another red flag, like say someone is very Pollyanna, very much wants to see the best in everyone, kind of an enabler. You might think, that's not so bad, they're nice, they want to see the best in everyone. well, what if they leave someone in your social circle that is a very dangerous person? Then of course that's going to negatively affect you because they have a blind spot that they're not willing to work on that inadvertently at some point will definitely be detrimental to you. Lesson number 3, stay friendly with people. You never know when it might come in handy, when you might move to some part of the world and somebody will be there and you'll link back up and you'll network and you'll have great experiences and friendships together. That's why I kind of advocate for phasing people out, stepping away, partly because I don't like the drama. I don't think it's necessary. And also just more tactically, you never know, further down the line, maybe you meet up in 5 to 10 years, they've changed, you've changed, you're in a place where you're in a better position to be in each other's lives, and maybe things work out that way. I have friends all over the world, and I am so happy because I know anywhere I go or anywhere I move, I pretty much already have someone there that I can kind of use as a gateway into forming my own social circle. Number 4, you are responsible for your own emotions. This one is a hard one that I think a lot of people will not like to hear or disagree with. It's true, people tend to use this to say like, oh, I can't take any responsibility for the way that I hurt you. It's your responsibility to deal with your emotions. That's not what I mean. People should definitely take responsibility for hurting your feelings if they do. What I mean is that it is within your power to not get triggered. It is within your power to regulate your own emotions and to not get baited when people are trying to trigger you. Feelings pass, none of them last forever. Have you ever had an emotion that lasted forever? I'm guessing not. And if you can tolerate distress, you're truly unstoppable. Lesson number 5, it doesn't matter what people think of you. Live your life and let people say whatever they want. You are the only person that knows the true you. When I first started this channel, I used to reply to all of the comments, and it was definitely more challenging in the beginning to get hate and criticism from people. And now I'm kind of at a place where I don't even care what people say, because I know the real me. I know that who I am online is, a perception people have of me that is not necessarily who I am as a person and who I am in real life. That's not to say that who I am online is very different from how I am in real life, and it's not to say that who I am online is not the real me. It's just we showcase different sides of ourselves. And someone's obviously not going to know the part of me that is just laughing with my boyfriend, or is cuddling with my cat, or is participating in class, or actually doing therapy with people. People don't know that. They only know this one side of me. And so honestly, yeah, I don't care what people think about that because I know their perception of me is not the real me. Number 6, don't chase people who are at best ambivalent about you and at worst do not want to be with you. Especially in the dating arena, I feel like a lot of women struggle with this, but if you have to wonder if a guy likes you, he doesn't. Like, sure, maybe there's a small proportion that he does, but I think it's safer for you to assume that he doesn't. A healthy relationship doesn't leave you wondering. Like, I've been with my partner for almost 4 years now, and I've never once wondered if he was into me, or if he still loved me, or if he still wanted to be with me. Number 7, this one's a bit of a hot take. Hookup culture, I don't find it empowering. And I've never really spoken on this channel about my personal feelings on this topic. I have talked about the research, but my personal opinion is that it's absolutely not. Like, listen, I've been in college, I've seen it firsthand. I think that is one of the most disempowering things that happens to young women these days. And I think it's slightly different if you're, for instance, in the LGBTQ+ community, or if you're an older woman, or if you're in a specific type of subgroup. But for just regular college women, the overall heteronormative culture that's created for them, I don't think that is empowering at all. And it was a really tough thing to learn. You don't believe it until you see it firsthand, and then it takes years to finally process, hold on, I've been programmed to think that this is so great and feminist, but let me examine, like, what is the effect this is actually having on women, because it's not a great one. I have a whole bunch of videos on this topic if you're interested in seeing the literature on that, so I will put a card up here if you're interested. Number 8, your attention is a finite and valuable reservoir. Don't give it to people who don't deserve it, who are trying to bait or trigger you, or people who require attention like it's oxygen. This is why I never respond to hate messages. It's why I never go back to someone who isn't good for me, no matter how hard they try to retaliate. Like, I've had situations where I decided I don't want to be in this person's life anymore. I removed myself and they reacted really poorly. And honestly, I don't know what to tell you. You can keep trying until you wear yourself out, but I'm not going to get baited. I'm not going to get into this back and forth with you. I'm not going to come back into your life. I made a decision to step out, and that's how it's going to stay. That's why I don't acknowledge catcallers either. Aside from the very obvious safety reason, what they want is your attention. They're energy vampires, and they're not going to get my attention. I'm not even going to acknowledge their existence. It's why I ignore people who are trying to be provocative or insulting, like at a family dinner, if a family friend is trying to be political or something, or to say things that are going to upset other people. I find that the best way to extinguish bad behavior is to just ignore it. And if I'm not feeding it, I'm neither giving them good nor bad attention, because a lot of people don't care what type of attention it is, they just want attention. So just keep on living your life, doing your thing, having fun, accomplishing great things, and don't waste your attention on people who have nothing better to do. Number 9, this is something that I kind of touched on in the intro, but remember that aging is nothing to fear. Being a young objectified woman is not a woman's peak level of empowerment. I personally can't wait to get a little bit older. Well, I mean, I can wait. I'm enjoying this area of my life, but I will also enjoy when I'm a little older and I have a little more tangible power than I do now. And I have a whole video on how I don't really get taken seriously because of how I look. People see a young, attractive woman and they assume a lot of different things. And yeah, I don't find that particularly empowering. Number 10, honor every cycle and welcome change. I'm very into celebrating all the different seasons, the lunar cycles, the highs, the lows, everything. And I've learned that it's kind of to do with resilience, because growing stronger, the only way to really accomplish that is through stress. No pain, no gain. It's the same on a metaphorical level as well. If you don't have bad quote unquote things that happen to you in your day-to-day life, there are no opportunities for you to grow as a person. I've often found that the periods when I've been the most quick to grow and learn were the periods that were the most difficult for me, that had really tough lessons for me to learn. And death and pain should also be honored as part of a cycle. I'm not saying, they're great things or that we should be happy when they happen, but to also remind ourselves that this is natural. Change is the only constant in life, and there's nothing wrong with also experiencing pain and the end of a cycle as well. Number 11, if your biggest dream isn't realistic or feasible, find a realistic or feasible workaround. I've always been super passionate about creative writing. I always will see myself as a writer first and foremost. I see clinical psychology as kind of like the career that I've married, the thing that I'm committed to, that I've invested a lot in, that I've gotten skilled at. But writing will always be my mistress. My passion, my true love, the thing that really gives me life and nourishes me. And unfortunately, it's not enough that I can really support myself off of. So that's why it's kind of on the sides. But I have always wanted from a very young age to be a writer. And I knew that that wasn't necessarily feasible for me. So I sought out a career in psychology, which was more practical, and I still am interested in and I still love. And one day I made this YouTube channel because COVID was happening and I was really freaked out about the way that the world was going, and I thought, what's a way to give back while also doing something that people will always need? I mean, unless you're in an apocalypse, people are always going to be using the internet, and that's something I can do from anywhere. And now, kind of inadvertently, I have an audience where when I do decide to publish a book, that's a great market to have. And it's not like I intentionally went about it like, oh, I'm going to do this for my writing specifically. Find those little ways to still make your dreams come true, even if you can't go about it very directly, even if you have to kind of do a little circumvention. Number 12, confidence is not arrogance. This one's hard for me. I've always had it in my head that people who are confident are arrogant, and that's a real fear that I had, was if I showcase confidence, people are gonna think that I'm arrogant because of that distortion that I had in my own head. Because the people that I saw around me who were confident as it happened, were arrogant, but that was not representative of true confidence. And I realized at some point, because I was trying so hard to be humble and to make myself smaller, make myself more quiet, make myself not be seen or heard. And one day I realized people still judge me. Like, they're still gonna think that I'm taking up too much space. So I might as well just be confident about what I know I'm good at. And the people that would judge me for that would think that's arrogance, they're gonna think that even if I'm not confident about myself. Because who's gonna judge you for being confident if you're also humble? It's really important to be humble and confident. The two can absolutely and should coexist. The people that have an issue with that, it's not your attitude they have an issue with, it's your accomplishments, it's envy. Number 13, when you feel triggered, when you are not able to self-regulate your emotions, and it does happen that you're triggered, examine why and grow from it. Because like I said, the stress is a great growing opportunity. It's a great place to sit down with a pen and paper and examine, why did this affect me as much as it did? What are the events that led up to it? What happened? What was my reaction? What was my contribution? Does this remind me of anything from my past? That's the only real way to grow and self-improve, is if we reflect on our own reactions and figuring out what are some ways that we can do things a little bit differently. Number 14, I've learned the importance of mindfulness. I'm definitely not a master at it, not by a long shot, but I'm trying to do better. And I've learned that mindfulness helps you better enjoy the positive moments and better cope with the painful ones. And so that's really kind of a win-win. Lesson number 15, life's not fair, get over it. This one was tough to learn. It was so long for me to wrap my head around this idea that life isn't fair, because the way I had been raised, the way that my mom told stories about her idea of justice, it was just ingrained in my head that justice is something we should all care about, and of course other people are going to care as well, and of course eventually the good people are going to win. And unfortunately that's not how life works. And I've spoken to her since then about that, and she was like, oh my god, like, did you really think that life was fair? Now listen, forces of oppression and victimization absolutely do affect some people more disproportionately than other people. That is not a debate. But incorporating victimhood into your identity doesn't actually take you very far. I learned this because I think we all kind of go through a phase where we're defiant and indignant and very angry about why things aren't fair. You can absolutely fight injustice and call out oppression when it happens, but make sure you're not just complaining or just talking to hear yourself talk. And don't ever fall under the trap of thinking that the universe sees you as a victim, because she doesn't. The universe is neutral. She's not going to get payback on the people that harmed you, because that's just not how life works, at least in my worldview. It's kind of just like gravity. Like, what goes up must come down, but it's not like what goes up must come down because how dare you go up and you flew too close to the sun and now you gotta fall back down and hurt yourself. No, like, it's not how the forces of physics work. And in my opinion, that's not how the universe works either. It's not about justice, it's just about actions having consequences. So if you're waiting for some kind of retribution, you might be waiting for a day that never comes. So make the most of what you do have, work to make systems more equitable, but don't bother wallowing in self-pity, because that is not going to help you and it's not going to help someone else. Plus, living with a victim mentality can be a sign of vulnerable narcissism, which is something very unhealthy that I don't suggest anyone take on. And so I think it's absolutely something that we should strive to stay away from. 16, if you have to make a choice between telling someone a truth about you that you don't think they'll want to hear and hiding a part of yourself or lying, choose honesty. I learned this the hard way. I spent a large proportion of my years lying about something very important about me, and I realized once I was finally honest that it would have done me such a favor if I had just told the truth from the start. If I had just said, hey, this is me, and given the other person the opportunity to accept that this is me, instead of now hoisting it on them much later. And it also takes a strain to lie like that about your authentic self for years and years, and the outcome of you telling the truth likely won't be as bad as you think it will. We kind of catastrophize, but what is the worst thing that can happen? If you have the opportunity to tell someone who doesn't hold huge power over you, something that you don't think they'll want to hear. I don't know, it could be really helpful to just tell them and be honest, and it could really be something that you're finally able to shed off your shoulders. It will do your future self a favor if your current self is brave. To give you just a little example about this, I went skiing last month and my parents very strongly discouraged me from buying this like bright pink metallic dinosaur snowsuit that I wanted. My mom said like, no, don't get it. And I got it and I wore it, and she was asking me for photos, and I was thinking like, maybe I should just tell her I didn't have any photos, or, you know, maybe I should just make up an excuse. And then I thought, no, I'm gonna send her the photo because I look cute. I was really happy in that snowsuit. I got a lot of compliments on it. And so I did send her the photo and she was fine with it. And I was like, don't be mad. She wasn't mad. Like, we need to be upfront about aspects of ourselves that are not worth hiding, because it's just a burden to continuously hide parts of yourself. 17, learn something from every challenge that you face, even if it's something that you think you were blameless in causing. Because this isn't about blame, it's about learning, it's about growth. Even if it's somebody else causing you harm, there is something that you can learn from it, even if it is as simple as, this is the type of person that in the future I'll try to stay away from. It's not about blame. So when something bad happens, when something challenging or painful occurs, really sit down and ask yourself, what are the lessons that you've learned? Kind of take each hardship, each moment of adversity as if it's a lesson that life is giving you, because you need to learn it. And you need to be aware of it and implement some change so that it doesn't keep happening. I've also had that be the case where life threw me a lesson and I was just not ready to hear it. And she gave it to me again and again and again until finally I said, okay, I get it. I'm gonna start making some change. And I had really positive outcomes. 18, don't overinvest in relationships. If those people are your true friends, they'll still be there later. I actually have a whole video on matching people's energy, so I'll put that up here if this is something that you struggle with. But basically, don't idealize people or fall for a fantasy. Don't overdress for dates. Don't fill up your schedule with social events because you're afraid you'll lose people or your friends won't be there anymore. When it comes to your social life, especially if you're an introvert, work smarter, not harder. You don't have to go to every event. You don't have to go see people all the time. You can see people however much you feel comfortable, however much feels good for you to maintain the friendship or the relationship, but you don't need to overexert yourself. 19, stop romanticizing messiness. There is nothing attractive about being a mess or being attracted to a mess. And I'm not talking about people who struggle with things. Like, for the record, I'm never just talking about people who struggle with mental health issues when I say this. Obviously, I dedicated my career to helping people who are going through that. I'm talking about people who are messy in the sense that they wreak havoc on other people's lives. I think those people are good to not glorify and good to stay away from if or until they start to make some changes where they're not wreaking havoc on the people around them. So don't glorify or romanticize people who are reckless or erratic or dangerous. That person will hurt you and you're much better off with someone healthy. I was really into the show Skins in college. It's this UK-based show. It's basically like a British Euphoria that did it long before, and it was fantastic. But back in the day, I really wanted to be friends with Cook, and Cook is like the messiest character in that show, or one of, there are a lot of messy characters, but he's definitely up there. And when I was rewatching it a few months ago, I was thinking, oh my God, I would so stay away from Cook these days. Like, the red flags, they're not glorious, they're not romantic, they're not attractive anymore. Once you start to treat yourself better, you start to become repulsed by people who you know would cause you harm. Lesson 20, if it's out of your control, there's no point in worrying about it. Just like right now, like I'm waiting, I have 6 more days until I find out where I matched for internship, if I match for internship, fingers crossed. And I'm not worried about it because there's nothing I can do between now and then that would change the outcome. My rankings are submitted, their rankings are submitted. What are you gonna do? Like, there's nothing I can do, so why would I freak out about it? 21, fear thrives on avoidance and its remedy is exposure. I talk about this with all of my clients who have anxiety basically, but The way to combat fear and to make sure that it doesn't have as much power over you is essentially to expose yourself over and over and over again to things that make you fearful, uncomfortable, disgusted, whatever it may be. Constantly push yourself outside your comfort zone. And this applies to you even if you don't have an anxiety disorder, even if you're just, a regular Joe with no mental health diagnosis. It's still really beneficial to get outside your comfort zone gradually, not all at once. Gradually is better because you're building on your own successes. Like for instance, I noticed that I started to stir my teacup 3 times counterclockwise, and I had kind of built like a routine of it. I kind of formed a ritual where every time I got a teacup, I would instinctively do that. And I thought, no, like we're not doing this. Like we're not gonna start like OCD rituals. Like even if this is nothing, I'm gonna nip it in the bud. Next time I might stir it twice clockwise, or stir it 5 times, or a random amount of times, because I don't want to build this comfort zone that's going to cause me more and more anxiety if I try to deviate from it. So I'm going to consistently try to push myself outside my comfort zone. Number 22, you are more than a body. Your value on this earth is not just to decorate the world. Especially if you're a woman, I think this is a really important lesson to learn. I just made a whole video on this, which is like 45 minutes long. I still can't believe how long it was, but I definitely recommend you check it out. 23, find what gives you flow and do it. For me, like I said, this is absolutely writing. Flow is when you're so immersed in the activity that you're not thinking about anything else. Time passes so quickly. Like when I'm writing, it's just the hours just run on by. So find that thing that you love so much that it makes time pass really quickly and do it as much as you can. 24, trust your misogynist meter. I've gotten pretty good at noting when men are misogynistic and on very little evidence, like just a little sensation here and there, something they might say. And obviously don't do anything or accuse anyone if you don't have any evidence, but do mark those signs or mark those feelings that are your intuition telling you something, and pay attention, because time after time, that intuition has later turned into evidence. It has later turned into someone being revealed to be extremely sexist or have really shitty attitudes against women. And I was really glad that I trusted my misogynist meter on that. And number 25, a person who mistreats or cheats on their partner will not treat you any differently. Don't fall under the illusion of the power trip. I was considering making a video on like who has it worse in a relationship, the cheated partner or the mistress, as it were. I don't know, let me know if that's something you would be interested in. It seems like something the internet is usually interested in. But I have a friend who's currently dealing with this, and she wants to date somebody who is in a relationship, and there's this very tempting idea that I can see is really consuming her. We're meant to be together, he would treat me differently, he would respect me more, even though he's speaking about his girlfriend disrespectfully. That's not how it works. Like, sure, like out of however many billion people there are in the world, I'm sure there are some people that started off as an affair that ended up happy and lasted a long time and all that good stuff, but that's such a minority. You don't want to go into a relationship assuming the best case scenario, because that's not very realistic. And I think this is also a really important lesson for a lot of women to learn, because we kind of fall under this illusion that like you have to be constantly competing with other women for male attention. And unfortunately, that is only going to set you up for failure. Even if you win this round, you're going to lose the overall game, because the game is set up to make you lose. So don't fall under the power trip. Don't fall under the power trip of hurting another woman or overstepping a woman so that you can feel good about yourself. Just don't do that. So those were 25 lessons. I don't know if they're like the most important ones that I've learned over the years, but when I sat down and thought, what are 25 important things that I've learned? Those were the ones that came to mind. Let me know what you think about them, or if you want to tell me what your 25 lessons are down below. I think that would be a really interesting idea, and I'll see you soon.